welcome back to the series. This is 7 most important tools for modern WordPress development. Today we're going to look at one that's a little bit different. This tool is called WP-CLI, or the WordPress command line interface. Now, if you've never used a command line interface or you don't really use the terminal, I think that's okay. Honestly, I didn't use it as much before I started using tools like WP-CLI, other than maybe some build scripts and things like that that we looked at in previous videos. If you've never really logged into a server and SSH and all those sorts of things, I understand that it can seem a little bit intimidating. What's great about WP-CLI is, like everything else in WordPress, it really is meant to be a beginner kind of friendly approach. Like it's very user friendly. It's a great learning tool to help you get more comfortable with using the command line. It just bridges that gap. It has, amazing advanced functionality and power to it. And then it also has, a really easy user interface and good documentation. So we're going to dig into WP-CLI, and just to kind of explain high level what's happening with WP-CLI is it's basically a way to log in to your WordPress site from the terminal. So you can do most everything that you would do normally with a WordPress website, like, update content, add users, install plugins, those sorts of things. But you're not actually loading WordPress in the browser. So you don't have to deal with the fact that it's trying to load all this UI and run all this extra code and stuff. So really, commands that you run just seem to run like lightning quick, because it's not dealing with also like rendering the full page and the menus and the buttons and the, all the kind of extra work that WordPress does just to show you a dashboard, just to show you the plugin install screen. It's not doing any of that work. So when you tell it to go install a plugin, it's literally just executing that code and the plugin gets installed, those sorts of things. So super powerful. So what we're looking at in front of us is WordPress Playground, and they have a new demo where you can actually mess around with WP-CLI in the browser to just kind of see what it feels like to do it on a site. But if you're using a local development tool like Local WP, they have a one-click to open your terminal with WP-CLI. If you're using a tool like WordPress Studio, WP-CLI would need to be installed on your computer. And if you're trying to do commands on a live website, you would have to check your hosting company, and every good managed WordPress host will show you exactly how to log into your site. And they will almost always have WP CLI installed, because hosting companies themselves are using these tools, to manage WordPress sites. So you can see here what we're looking at is a couple different commands. WP is the kind of first command for everything with WP CLI, but they're kind of showing you some of the other sort of like commands that you might run in a terminal to kind of get around the file structure and stuff. The nice thing is that if you run WP, you can always type dash dash help, and it'll give you really like the full documentation directly there and kind of tell you, here's all the different commands you can run. Here's all the different options you have when you run a command, that sort of thing. So you can do it here. You can also just go to the documentation. Either way kind of works well. And then you're going to Control C to get out of that kind of terminal right there. So I'm just going to show you a really couple basic commands of things that I do all the time. One is I get access to a site. I don't have a username or password, but they gave us access on, WP Engine or the hosting company. So I know I can get in with WP CLI, and I can type in WP user list, and it's going to tell me who all the users are on the site, their user ID, their email address, all that stuff. So that's always like a great first step is, okay, cool, I can see my users. And you can see how fast that works. It just runs it pretty quickly. I can also say WP user update, and I can pass it a user ID. So the user ID here is number 1, and I'm going to reset the password. And boom, it's going to tell you right away that it's updated the password for that user. This is if you've ever had to log into the database and like reset your password or something like that and do the MD5 hashing, all that stuff. This is a much faster approach. You can even do WP user create and fill out the rest of the arguments and create your own user. So that way you get your own administrator user on the website. So WP CLI, adding, managing users, removing users, getting your passwords, all that sort of stuff, super handy. Another thing that I like to use WP CLI for is when I get to a site, I like to just get my plugins installed pretty quickly. Going to the plugin screen, loading a lot of stuff takes a lot of time. So I might do something like WP plugin install, and I'm going to say query monitor because I love using query monitor. And then there's all sorts of different arguments you'll see in the documentation, but I can say like activate. And not only is it going to install the plugin, it's going to activate it for me too. So it's going to do it all at once. And you see how fast that moves. Now there's tons of other commands that you can see as far as editing content, editing posts, doing like a lot of like bulk things, anything that you think might require you to write a little custom code, or you're not sure how to do it, or it feels like it's going to take a long time because it's updating a lot of things, that's when WP-CLI comes in handy. And then there's one more magic trick that I'm going to show you that is really the developer's best friend with WP-CLI, and that's writing your own custom WP-CLI commands. Okay, so here I've loaded up that plugin that we were working on in some of the previous episodes, and we're not really concerned about the plugin and the other code in it. What we're really looking at is just these few lines of PHP that I've added at the end of it that are going to let us write our own custom WP-CLI command. So WP-CLI is a class that you can reference. A lot of times you do want to, before you do anything, starting on line 55, we always kind of want to check and make sure like it exists, because not every server has WP-CLI installed. So that's kind of the first important part. But then as far as adding commands and running them, it really is as simple as writing a function in PHP. So a lot of times you might have something where you think, man, I need to write this function and just run it once on my client's website. I don't want to make like some sort of page for it, or how do I get the function to run one time? That's where WP-CLI is super handy, because you can write functions in PHP, and then when you're ready to run them, you can just go in and use your commands to run them. So in this case, all WP-CLI is doing is just, outputting a nice hello world success message. But inside of my function for my custom command, I have access to everything WordPress. I have all the WordPress functions, everything that I would normally do. So that ability to just kind of write your own commands for custom projects and stuff is a lot of times what separates a developer from somebody who wastes a lot of time or spends too much time on things. This is a kind of a power tool that's going to save you a lot of time. So I hope that gives you like a good overview of WP-CLI. This isn't a tutorial. I'm not teaching you all the steps. Definitely go to the documentation and read it for yourself. See the list of commands. And as you start working on your WordPress sites, when you get up to tasks, start thinking, is this something I could do faster in WP-CLI? Could I run my updates a little faster by doing this? Could I, add or remove plugins a little faster doing this? And start, bringing it into your workflow. And I promise you, once you start using it, you will probably end up like me and a lot of people I know who use it every single day. So that's the next edition of our 7 most important tools for modern developers. Stay tuned for the next video when we'll dig into another awesome tool.